Education Secretary. Oh, there she is. Labour pledged to recruit 6,500 more teachers. So can the Prime Minister tell the House how many extra teachers are there since she became Education Secretary?
More than when they left office. I'm very proud to say so. We're in an upward trajectory. Oh, Mr. Speaker, they left our health service on its knees. They left our schools in a mess. They left our economy absolutely broken. They should be utterly ashamed of their record in service.
Kemi Badenoch didn't just score a clean hit on Keir Starmer, she exposed, with surgical precision, the central problem he's been hiding since the day he entered No 10. The man looks prepared only when everything goes exactly according to script. The moment Badenoch stepped outside his carefully memorized talking points and pressed him with a factual, easily measurable question. How many extra teachers have been hired since Bridget Phillipson became Education Secretary? Starmer was instantly rattled. His response, more than when they left office, wasn't an answer. It was a reflex, a hollow, panicked deflection that revealed he had no data, no command of detail, and no confidence in the story his own government is trying to sell. And that's what makes this moment so devastating. It wasn't theater. It wasn't partisan shouting. It was accountability, the one thing Starmer claims to champion. Yet when faced with the simplest request to demonstrate leadership through competence, he crumbled. If a prime minister can't state basic staffing numbers in one of the most crucial public sectors, education, what does that say about his ability to handle crises, budgets, or policy execution on a national scale? Badenoch didn't need to humiliate him. Starmer did that himself. She simply asked the kind of question any leader should anticipate. His inability to answer didn't just look weak. It highlighted a deeper pattern, a government that governs by appearances, not substance. A prime minister who falters every time the conversation leaves the comfort of rehearsed lines is not steady, not serious, and certainly not ready for the real burdens of power. In that brief exchange, the illusion cracked. The image fell apart, and Starmer's critics suddenly had the easiest case in the world to make. A leader who cannot defend his record, even in numbers, is a leader unfit for the office he holds.
Locals never consulted. They were this was shoved upon them by, in this instance, the Labour government, was same before Linton-on-Ouse by the Tories, RAF Scampton, RAF Wethersfield. This is not solving the problem, it's moving the problem. And once again, it's ordinary voters who are getting shafted.
Well, look, Martin, I'm not convinced that the legal challenge will win. But if you want to, and the government is rightly committed to significantly reducing asylum numbers, but that is going to take time. If in the intervening period you want to end the use of hotels, which the government is committed to, you don't want to put people in houses of multiple occupation, which I think is a much worse solution, then isolated army camps, I think, can be
But they're not isolated. Bill, they're literally at the end of people's gardens. There's no fence, there's no prevention of stopping anyone. If you've been to the site, which we have, it's literally at the end of people's gardens. There's not even a piece of chicken wire. How do you fancy hundreds of young men wandering around your back garden?
Well, look, I live fairly near to the Bell Hotel in Epping, and, I want to end the use of asylum hotels. The government does. We don't want asylum seekers being placed in houses of multiple occupation. And I think in those circumstances, army camps can be part of the solution. But we also need, as the government is committed to, a dramatic overhaul of the asylum system. Shabana Mahmood's proposals and the most far-reaching changes to the system in about 30 years. The government needs to legislate on those proposals, but it is going to take time. But look, these changes can make a difference. When I was in government, under the last Labour government, in the early 2000s, there were about 90,000 asylum claims per year. By the time we left office, we'd reduced it to 19,000 a year. But not through stunts, not through undeliverable policies, but changing the system and making it work. And that's what the government is committed to doing.
But Bill, the scale of asylum back in the day then was tiny compared to now. This is a huge tidal wave. But let's be realistic. I don't know if you saw the report out today from the National Audit Office. The lunatics have taken over our asylum system. £5 billion has been splurged. No one really knows where the money is going. 50% of cases are taking more than 3 years. And we simply have no idea about how many asylum seekers have simply gone missing in action. They're wandering around the country. No one knows where they are. And back to the point of using army barracks or RAF sites, the Conservatives tried it before, it failed. It's a definition of insanity to repeat the same idea and expect it to work in places like Crowborough.
But if you're going to maintain the commitment, which I think most people agree with, that we are part of the Refugee Convention, but you want to end the use of hotels, the asylum seekers have to go somewhere. But if in terms of what you're saying about that National Audit Office report, and it covers both the last Tory government and the early part of this Labour government, I think there have been real concerns about management within the Home Office under successive governments and not accurately reporting data around asylum seekers and failed asylum seekers, I think is a real concern. That in part is why Shabana Mahmood has come forward with the most wide-ranging changes that we've seen in a generation. You know, removing the legal duty to guarantee support to asylum seekers, limiting the time for appeals, having just one appeal within the system. And we're already seeing process. Deportations are up. And I think the
Bill,
biggest...
people have heard all this before. People have heard all this before.
Martin,
they've heard it all before. The deportations of 3.5% of illegals, it's not even scratching the surface. You're talking about the low-hanging fruit, visa overstayers. Illegal immigrants face a tiny percentile chance of being kicked out of the country, and the solution from this government is the same as the one from the previous failed government: stick them in army camps at the end of someone's gardens. It's utterly unacceptable.
No, it's a multifaceted approach. And the reality, and let's talk about the reality, Martin, is deportations are up significantly under this government. Yes, they need to go further. One of the biggest changes is a 63% rise in illegal working arrests, because one of the problems we face with failed asylum seekers is they disappear into the black economy.
Yeah.
That's why the government
We've got no idea how many disappeared.
Sorry?
We've got no idea how many disappeared. That's the finding of today's National Audit Office report.
We
you haven't got a clue. No one's got a clue how many people are here.
We know, and it's a matter of fact that there's been a 63% in illegal working raids within the black economy.
There's more of them to nick.
Range of other, with that along with a whole range of other measures. Of course, you nick more of them.
There could be 1 or 2 million of them.
Martin, that along with a whole range of other measures will, over time, change this system. But the system the government inherited was in crisis. It was taking far too long to process asylum claims. People were disappearing into the black economy.
50% of cases over 3 years. Data from today. Stop blaming the Tories.
In time, well, no, I'm not going to stop blaming the Tories, because the system we inherited was an absolute shocking mess.